Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. It's Thursday, June the 19th over here. I hope everyone's doing well. We got about 20 eyes on us. Sorry, 40 eyes on us. And yeah, I'm seeing some comments already. Hello, everyone. Hope you're well. Um, Today is a holiday in the United States. So I'm not sure how many people consider watching the Ask the Trainer a holiday activity. So hello, Drake, Maeva, um, Big Beans, I think, George, Walthamstone, yep, the Druid with us, Sorab, um, I, Fezenko, Robert Brescia, ATD Films 360, Igor Kiryakov, and myself. So I hope everyone is well. Yeah, I made a little promise on X that I was going to deal with something about looping particles and all that stuff. And I have to admit, not defeat, but a setback. That's what we call it now, a setback, because, and I'm going to explain it. It's one of the things I'm going to do today, because setting expectations helps find the solutions to various problems. Now, what would I? Yeah, for anyone that missed yesterday's announcement, we showed some interesting stuff that for many of you are going to offer some new workflows, including the liquid workflow for the particles. And yeah, there are a couple of tutorials on Cineversity. I'm going to post links to most of this stuff. And yeah, I have a couple of questions from the online form. I'm going to do my housekeeping at the end so that everyone doesn't have to wait for me. And, you can stick around and watch that. If you're regular, you know the information already. As far as what I'd like to ask is don't forget to subscribe to our channel and thumbs up and comment and all that. It helps the algorithms push these shows a bit further, and it's good to have more people participating because all the questions allow us to do our job a bit better. Good. So what do I need to do now? I need to share my screen. And there's my screen. I'm actually going to go full screen. And oh, by the way, if you are asking a question in the chat, because generally I get compliments and general chit chat, if you write question capitalized before your question, it's going to be easier for me to distinguish it. And I'm going to go with a couple of questions in the comments. I'm going to be a bit slow in my speaking today because I woke up fairly early, and yeah, I'm just going to take it easy here. So here's my cinema 4D screen, and the question we're having is, I'm going to go here, go all the way up, and I'm going to post the question. Hi, Noseman. Hi, Igor. How to morph one object into another, like the inheritance effect, but using the new particle system. Okay, so one of the scenes, if you go to yesterday's stream, there's in the description text below, there is a link to downloadable files. One of them shows a method of doing that. Now, let's begin with a concept of what do we need to do. And let's assume we have two objects. I'm just going to make a mini cube here and a mini sphere here. I'm just going to do it for things to move fast. And let's assume what I want to do is I want to create some particles in the volume of this cube, then move them over time and move them over here. Now, number one, mentioning the inheritance effect. Igor mentioned it, and it's actually you can fake a transition like this using the inheritance effector and add some noises and so forth. And there is no proper or improper way to do it. But I'm going to stick strictly to particles, and I'm going to call this origin, and the other one is going to be destination. Now, one of the things that happen with the inheritance effector is that we have two objects. One is the object that's been affected by it, and the other one provides the data. And the reason I need to mention that is because we need to understand what we are trying to do here. So let's assume we have a matrix object over here, which is 10 by 10 by 10. There you go. We have these little matrices over here. And we have another matrix, which is, I don't know, 10 by 1 by 10, right? So this is another matrix that's over here. Obviously, we have a mismatch between the number of stuff. But the inheritance does a trick we are going to try and imitate as well to wrap around any repeating elements. So because we have 10 times more objects on this side, matrices, each 10 of these are going to end, are going to end up in one of these positions. And in any case, let's assume that the one we're moving is this one. So we need to affect this using the inheritance effector. So inheritance effector, there you go. And I want to inherit this. And now if you go here, you will see that this goes over here, and that's the direct morph motion object. And there you go. So this is what's happening. I'm getting 10 by 10 by 10. That's 1,000 cubes. And I'm moving them so that they fall in the final positions. In between, I can have all sorts of various things happening. Now, there are also ways to do this using animation and so forth. There are quite a few ways to do these kind of things. And I think I haven't used this in a while. Fall-off-based. I forgot how to do this using animation. So I'm going to stop doing that for now. And undo a couple of times, stop my animation, and so forth. To the back to the particles. So the inheritance drives this object, but requires a destination. With particles, the question is, well, how do we create destination particles or destination positions? Because the idea is to create for the destination object a bunch of points inside here so that the particles that are generated on this side over time, each one goes to a predefined position. My favorite way of doing that is using nodes, because we will have to use the particle nodes modifier to do this in any effective way. So I'm just going to put my line so we can distinguish these a bit. So let's go here, and I'm going to bring up my particles layout. I made this, and if you go to the original tutorials I did for particles on Cineversity, that was when we first introduced particles, I think at the end of last year. I'll show you how to make a palette and all that. So anyway, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to use a mesh emitter. And this mesh emitter, maybe I use volume, and I'm going to create some particles. You will see them just going in all sorts of different directions. Now I can hide the origin, and I can go to my mesh emitter and tell these particles to not move at all. So, and even better for these kind of setups, you can do flows, but having a shot will allow you to see exactly what's going on. So there you go. We have 1,000 particles that are generated here. And over time, we want them to go and fill this object. And although the question asks about morphing, well, this is how we're going to do the morphing. And by meshing, so volume builder and volume measure for this, and we make sure that we have kind of a good fidelity over here. And whenever you're dealing with particles, make sure that you select this and you set the particle radius to be used. And this is, let's say, the mesh we are going to create on this side. You can use the new liquid mesh, but it's not necessary. At this point, you'll find some advantages on this and some advantages on that. But for now, for this, I'm just going to use the volume mesh. Okay. So what I'm going to do with these over here, generating the particles, and I turn this off. Do not turn off your particles. I'm just, there we go. Here are my particles. Now, at the same time, I need to generate at least 1,000. Oh, how many particles do we have? That's another good question. So yeah, 1,000 particles, because that's what I generated. Sorry about that. I generated 1,000 particles. So what do I want to do now? I want to generate 1,000 positions in the volume of this sphere, so that then I can tell each particle based on its index to kind of try and go there. And the way I'm going to do this is by using a particle nodes modifier. And I'm going to go and apply it to this particle group. And let's go to my nodes and see how we're going to tackle this. So I want to find a way to generate random points in here. And for this, I can use something called a volume voxel fill, right? A volume voxel fill distribution. And this requires an object. So this is just like the MoGraph's volume fill. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and say object child, because I want to put the object I want as the destination. I want to link it over here, because I'm going to use this object by grabbing it over here. I'm going to use that object. Now, of course, there's one thing we always need to do when we bring in geometry that's not in the Weld origin, is transform geometry. And this is part of the tutorials. I've made a bunch of them. So let's get globe matrix, and this will move the points so that they're in the correct position. And the volume voxel fill over here is going to generate some points. Now, the question we have here, okay, how many points? And it's based on a voxel size over here. So it may be a bit tricky to find out, oh, how many points do we have inside that? Maybe there's another distribution. Another distribution. Let's see if there's another volume. No, we don't have another volume one. So we're going to have to live with this. And we will see, we will change this number depending on what we're doing. Now, the next thing I need to do is, and this is where we need to understand the custom particle property workflow. I will assign to each and every one of these particles a position, which corresponds to a position of this random distribution. So that is what this is going to do. So in order to store an arbitrary value, we need to go and create a custom property. So I'm going to go to my scene settings. I'm going to go simulation particles. Let's bring this up. And I'm going to go to the manual custom properties. And I'm going to, let's go here, create a vector, because meter or normal vector doesn't really make a difference. I'm going to call this destination. There we go. I'm going to copy it because I'm going to use the name. This is a destination. That's it. So each particle that's generated is going to be able to store a destination. And I want that destination to be fed by this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to iterate the collection, because this will give us a bunch of matrices, indices. It's something similar to the Mo data we get. And I want to go from the matrix over here and start for each particle. I want to go and feed it the appropriate position, which is the destination position. And actually, I'm going to use the get element. And the reason I'm going to do the get element is the following. I'm going to get an element from the array. The element is going to be the translation. I don't need this anymore. And which element I'm going to get is based on the unique ID of the particle. So particle 0, the first particle, is going to go to the bunch of these matrices that the volume voxel fill is generating. And we're going to make it snatch the position and set custom particle property. The custom particle property, I'm going to paste it here It's called destination, and it's a vector. So, and I'm going to connect this up to the translation. And this doesn't need to be connected on its right. It's not an output, it only has an input. So what I'm doing now is I am generating these random positions over here. I am telling each particle to take its turn, and based on its little unique ID, to go and pick from this huge list of positions, translations, and each particle is going to get a unique position here. Now, you would ask me, and I'm going to go and do a quick save here, just to make sure, ATT special. I'm going to call this morphing 01A. Yeah, my typing is terrible. Morphing with an R, whatever. So let's see, where did I leave my thoughts? Okay, someone may ask me, is there a way to preview where these points are? And the answer is yes. You will have to use another node, but you just copy these two. And these are ways you can go and you can quickly check out what exactly is going on. So I copied these two nodes. I'm going to go to my asset browser nodes, go to the asset construction and go to the nodes mesh. Let's drag the destination in here, just making a copy, a very quick copy. Let's go in here. Let's close this, add an input. Let's go and add an object child and paste my nodes in here, get the geometry and get the global. And over here, I'm getting this distribution, and I'm going to iterate this collection. There we go. And now I can go and create other little geometries here. I can use the clone onto points, clone onto points, and I'm going to get mini spheres, sphere or mini cubes or anything like that. I want to go up the geometries, and actually, I want. Do I want to iterate collection? No. Here I want to put an array of points. So I'm going to do a. If you can't remember, I want. Oh my god! I want. My brain has. I forgot the word. So container, decompose container. Oh my lord, I'm forgetting my words. And let's take the index and let's put the geometry here. And we should get a bunch. We've got nodes mesh. There you go. It's just that the spheres are too big and have too many segments, and they're too many points. So I'm just going to make my segments 9. I'm going to make my spheres 1. And if you go here, you will see these are the points we are generating. So, it's not a very quick way, but in a couple of minutes, these are things you can save as assets as well. So if you want to be able to preview various of these things, you can just take this and you can save it as an asset and put it in your asset browser and so forth. So now we're just previewing each sphere is one of the positions we're generating. So I can turn this off. We don't need it now. And move on back to this. So let's say we're quite happy with what we did on that side, and we've set these positions. So each particle now has its own little position. Now, if you're curious as to how many of these particles are being generated, you can advance a few frames, right-click and say Data Inspector here. Let's advance one more. And you can go and see the count. So the count is 999 particles. So they are getting all sorts of different positions over here. These are positions of those little spheres we saw earlier. So you can sort of get a little peek. Now, in terms of loading those destination positions onto each and every one of these particles, I only want that to happen on a single frame. I don't want this to repeat again and again. And the easiest way to deal with something like this is you just go and you say, give me a condition or a time condition, right? Give me a time condition for these particles. And if my scene time is less than a couple of frames, then execute this. So I only want these values to be stored in an instant, right? That's what it's going to do. So there you go. Particles are generated. Then the next frame, they get the values. From this point onwards, it's up to me to decide how these particles are going to move to get to this position here. I'm going to show the easiest of all ways you can do that. And that will be using a time condition. You can use field conditions. You can use all sorts of things. I'm just going to use a time condition. And I'm just going to say that when the scene time is greater than, let's put it at 30 frames, right? I want these to start going in their final destinations. So again, I'm going to use a particle node modifier because I need to access that data. And what basically I'm going to do here is I'm going to find little vectors, little arrows that point from wherever the particle is towards their final destination. And I'm going to use that in the velocity to push the particle in that direction. In order to do that, property, get particle property. So I'm going to get the particle property. And the particle property I'm going to get is not that, of course. It's, I forgot the name. So I need to go here. I need to go, and it's called a destination. So copy. I think I copied that destination. There you go. And it's a vector. So for each particle, I'm getting its destination value, and I'm subtracting vector. So subtract a vector from the destination position, the current position, and I'm going to use that as the velocity. Now, things are going to move fast in the beginning because those arrows are big, but we should see after frame 30 now, the particle's sort of moving in that direction and trying to go to the sphere. We don't have enough of these. There we go. But as it goes closer and closer and closer, it goes slower because those arrows go. And we don't have, we need fewer. We need fewer of these voxels over there. We're going to fix this. Let me close down the sphere because I don't want to see it. There we go. In order to have a steady speed, what you can do, you can get this direction, this vector, and you can normalize it. And normalization is going to make it a length of 1. So these are going 1 centimeter per second. And then you can scale this so they all have the same velocity. So you can scale a vector. And this normalized vector, I'm going to scale it by 10 or 20 or 100 to make them go 100 centimeters per second, which is pretty much what the default speed usually is. And there you go. So they're going that way. And let's fix, when they go too close, you just need to put a special case. If your speed or your distance is lower than that, just stop. It's a condition. I'm not going to do it now, but that's what you ought to do, because now it's overshooting and coming back to the same position because of numerical inaccuracies. So the only thing we need to do here is make sure in this volume voxel thingy that we have fewer voxels. So we increase the voxelization. Let's see if I make this 5, what's going to happen? Is it going to be all spherical? Yeah, you just play around with this until, oh, no. Why did I move my mouse? I made the voxel size 0 there. Okay. At least escape works. Stop. Panic. There we go. 10. Whew. Okay, with nodes, the escape works and it's going to stop doing stuff. So in any case, so this is overall the way by which you would go about setting it up. You need some final positions. You need, that was 5. There we go. You need some positions so that the particles know where they need to go. You need some, there you go. That looks a bit better. And in between, you can add all sorts of forces. So I can put a turbulence, and I'm going to go put it down here, increase the strength of this turbulence, just going to make it a bit crazy. There you go. And the other thing I'm going to do is use a field so that this only happens, I said field, this only happens in the middle. So what I can do is select the linear field, go to remapping. I love to use the curve for this. Go to the curve, do that, do this. So now it will only take place in the middle. It's going to go a bit, whoop, and then go back. And now I can turn up my values. So you will see that in the middle, they're going to go a bit crazy, and then whoop. And yeah, this will be, I would say, some sort of the underlying principle by which you can go from one position to the other. As long as you have a way, you'll find a way to define those final positions and assign them to each particle, then the effect, the idea behind the effect will be done. So, okay, let me check some cues here. Let me check some cues. Let's see. Where are we? I'm going to bring some up from top to bottom. So this is what we were dealing with. Okay. Now, there was an addendum by ATD Films that says if this has any relationship to the grow states that Ellie showcased yesterday, for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, it's the integration of the Laubwerk plants here. And if you type Laubwerk and go to all, you will see that we have a ton of plants. Now, these plants have some very specific settings. And the answer which I'm going to give is no, you can't do that. They have predefined states. So this tree here, if you select the plant generator, you have different models. They're young, middle-aged, fully grown, and so forth. What we are seeing, if you're going to see the skeleton or the rendered geometry, the rendered geometry will show you everything here. It's what are we talking about here? 300,000 polygons and so forth. But these are different models. These are not interpolatable because the point count is different. So there is no slider which will turn a young into a fully grown one. That doesn't exist. And you will have, if you want to make plant growths, you will have to, at least for the time being, generate them by yourself using some sort of intricate setup, MoGraph, and so forth. If you go on Maxon's YouTube channel, you will find some interesting stuff that happened in the 3D Motion Tour, I think in 2019, where we were doing some stuff from perception, and one of them was sort of a plant with Fibonacci numbers and all that. So check those out, but generally there is no automated way to use the plants. Anyway, that was just an answer for a follow-up. Okay, let's see. What do we have here? Let's see. Hello to everyone. Let's see. Right, start from here. Hi, Noseman. Hi, Than. I'm stuck in C nodes. The add control point along spline node only works in the scene context, but it doesn't work in nodes mesh. If that's the case, I don't know. So add control point. Let's go and find out. Let's do a quick one. So let's get, I'm going to get inside. I'm going to make this 2. I'm going to make it editable. And I'm going to go and grab a nodes as a construction. I'm going to grab a node spline. Let's see. And I'm going to go to my nodes and do this and say add a control point along spline. This should be the one you're talking about. And I need to go and read my child and go here and put this here and see where my spline is. Add control point along spline. I don't see a spline. Oh, one more thing. It could be because this is interpreted as a line. So right click, go to edit port, go to the advanced and make sure that import the spline as spline. Yep, that's it. So it needs to be a spline. You were importing a line. And so let's see. If you go here and say current state to object, we should see in this a point over here. There you go. So it does work, but you need to make sure that you switch the port instead of line to spline. Now, for anyone that doesn't know the difference between lines and splines, I'm going to give you the very quick rundown of this. So this is a circle. Every spline has a interpolation. The data we have here, whether it's a primitive spline or a editable spline, a spline is always a generated object. What you see here, the white and blue gradient, is the mathematical expression of the spline. And it doesn't matter how close you go, it's always going to be smooth. Just remember that. Now, if I select this and reduce the number of subdivisions, I'm generating lines. This is how the spline is interpolated. Now, watch this. The data is still the same. This is the spline. This is the line. So the product of the spline generator, which allows this to be used in various contexts, is a line. So make sure that when you're reading any splines for your node setups, that depending on the tool you're going to use, you use the appropriate input. So I think that would answer your question. Okay. We have people from New York, Cologne. We have pink hands saying hi. Linear Drift. Yo, how's it going? Right, let's go. Let's go to my friends. Could you show how to use the connect tool? Do you mean, let's see, the connect object? Is that what you mean? Let's see. Can you post if that is what you mean? I'm waiting. It takes about 10 seconds. Oh, yes. Okay. Let's do a quick primer. Oh, double reply. So yes, yes. I love that. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. So the connect object. The connect object is one of the most versatile tools we have in our disposal. Let's say your refrigerator has a problem. Put it under a connect object. It will fix it. Your sewing machine is missing stitches. Put it under a connect object. So generally, connect object it connects the same type of objects or different types. Let me show you what I mean. Let's take this spline, and I'm going to get a circle and put them here. Okay. Now, what if I want to extrude this and make some sort of it's not a hex nut, an octanut, not an octanaut. You can use a connect object, put these two under here. This will consolidate these two splines in a single spline with two segments. If you want to see what a connect object generates internally, just press C to make it editable. So it's creating a single spline. This means that if I extrude this, I will get this. And if you go and watch that presentation I just talked about, the Motion Tour 2019, I'm actually using these methods to do some quite intricate, fancy, schwancy things. So look at that. I'm just adding more and more. And this is one single object. Okay. So you could do the same thing. Let's say you are creating a MoGraph. And again, I'm just showing splines for now. Let's create MoGraph cloner. Let's do a linear with 0 movement, but with a bunch of scaling. Okay. And let's increase this. Look at that. Procedural dartboard. Okay. So you can do these kind of things if you wish, and and do this and that. And everything is because of the connect object, right? See, the cloner on its own, if you right click and say make editable, it creates a null and many objects. And that's not going to work. Well, if you go to the extrude and say hierarchical, it should but it doesn't understand the the nested circles. The connect object is quite smart with these kind of things, and it will take any number of splines, and providing the splines are not overlapping, it's going to create some sort of alternative winding for the splines. So that's the splines. Let's forget about the splines. The connect object can also connect mesh objects. And a very handy thing you can do is get dreaded objects like the figure. The figure is not a single thing. If you make the figure editable, it's got a bunch of these things, nested stuff and all that. So sometimes you will use the figure as, some sort of generator, and not good things happen. Well, if you put this under a connect object, the connect object will give you a single mesh object. So make it editable, a single mesh object, and it makes it good for feeding various things into particle emitters and so forth. Now, one thing you need to remember for mesh objects, turn off the weld, because any points that are within a certain threshold, it will weld them together. That's why you see this thing happening here. It's just because I've increased the threshold. And this may cause problems when you're exporting Alembics. Another way to use the connect with meshes is you have a complex alembic with many objects that are animating. You put everything under connect object. You remove the weld to make sure that your point counter is not going to change if 2 points come too close to each other. And you save this as alembic. Okay, so that's the meshes. Now, the good thing about it is that it can generally, it filters by the type of object. So sometimes, again, it depends on the mood. It gives precedence to mesh objects, and it won't create a compound object. So make sure that you put the same type of object underneath. Finally, and this is one of the wonderful big secrets that I've said it a few times, but it's really, really cool. It can connect volume objects. And did I do it in a show or was it a quick tip? I don't even remember what it was. So I can put this under a volume builder, and I can set this to fog and go here and say, maximum voxel fall off, right? So this is a fog. I'm going to name this density. I'm going to make another one, move this a bit to the side, and I'm going to name this temperature. I'm going to put those underneath here. Come on. Look at that. It connects volumes so that it makes them compatible with Pyro. And because I'm using the standard naming, it has a special check. If something is named density and temperature and so forth, it will generate grids that will try to be interpreted as this. So there you go. So you can make, what was it? What I did, I don't remember if it was a tutorial, but the great thing is that you can actually make manual Pyro. You can do whatever you want. I mean, look at this. That's cool. Like a glowing round, whatever this is. So let's go to these two and make this 3 or 2. Excellent. And yeah, you've made your own little custom Pyro. And this can be anything. You can have fields in here and so forth. But anyway, so the connect object, if you have a flat tire, put your car under a connect object and it will find the tire and fix it. And jokes aside, it's extremely versatile. When you have anything you suspect that is more than one element, you just throw it under a connect object. It's going to do all the connections, alembics and caching and all that, even volumes, as you can see. And yeah, that will be what you can do. You know what I'm going to try? I'm going to try something else, because for some reason, I cannot not do something else, right? Sue me. I'm going to take this sphere and I'm going to put a Pyro emitter tag. I don't know if this is going to work, but I don't care. I'm going to turn everything off I'm going to turn on the temperature. And I'm going to put this under here and see if we're going to get a connection. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to press play and see if we're going to get a combination of, what are we getting here? I'm going to go to my Pyro and turn everything off. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. So it's combining the temperature from one and the density from the other, which means that if I make this bigger, it may start, is it going to start covering that? Interesting. It's not doing what I wanted it to do because I'm viewing this. I want to view this. Yeah, whatever. I'm definitely doing something wrong. So it doesn't appear to have worked in the way I wanted it to. But nonetheless, it's not going to break. It draws it on top. That's interesting. That is very, very interesting. Anywho, so this is what the connect object can do for you. It can connect all sorts of different data types so that it will allow you to consolidate things into single entities to use furthermore. I hope that reply was satisfactory. Let's move down the questions. Bum, ba-dum, ba-bum. Shampoo. I'm having some trouble to make hair cream shampoo with a liquid emitter. Have you seen my head? Do you think I know anything about shampoo? So that was a joke. Of course I know about shampoo. So, well, it depends on the, I guess it depends on the setup. Maybe you expect too much to get it. I assume you want it to interact with hair and stuff like that. That's an interesting thing. If you can hit me up on X, Twitter, whatever you call that, I call it Twixer. DM me. That's my Twitter handle, and I do respond over there. Or you can use the form, which I'm going to very quickly, because I'd like you to have this. I'm going to paste something here. I'm going to paste it in the comments. This is a link. If you use that link, you're going to come to this page, and down at the bottom it has the Ask the Trainer questions. So send that through so I don't miss it. Although I can't promise I'm going to reply, but nonetheless, do your best to post it there. And yeah, I want to. Yeah. I can take a look at that and see how it works with hair. Maybe it needs to be generate splines. I do not know because the hair system is not part of the unified simulation currently. Okay, let me go. Where was I? I missed 1 second. Connect to, there we go. Yeah, there's a new, this is something I would like to show here. Very good comment, Saurabh. Thank you. So there was an intermittent little problem in 2025.2 where when you had the speed here, because of the handles, it had a variance enabled. And people didn't know that, and they set this to 0, and everything would move around. But now the variance is a checkbox, so there is no variance, and your particles are going to sit still by default. If you set the speed to 0, they're just going to sit there and do nothing. So that's being fixed. Let's see. Yeah, this comes up quite often. There's no trick. Okay. Now let me talk about scale. I'm gonna go geek, a bit geeky, but let me close this, and I'm gonna talk about this later on. So, in terms of scale, if you make this big thing here, and I'm gonna get a disk, I'm gonna make it rather big. I'm gonna add a collider. I'm gonna make it invisible. Now, this cube is 2 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters. And in fact, if I make it this big, this can hold, excuse me, a little sneeze. This can hold it a 1 metric ton of water. So let's make this a rigid body. And what I'd like you to do is measure how long it takes to fall. So I'm going to start. And there you go. So it takes about 39 frames to fall. Okay. Now we know that all objects, barring some minor things that have to do with atmospheric friction and so forth, they accelerate at the same rate. So whether you have a 1 ton block of ice or something, or a 1 centimeter. So if I take this and make this 1 centimeter, both of these, it's very small. You can see it's very, very small, but it's still there. Both of these are going to fall at the same rate. All right. So I can select this. You can see they're falling at the same rate because that's how nature works. But here is the problem, and this has to do with the scaling. I'm going to get to the point of the scaling. Don't worry. I am going to select this, the disk and the cube. I'm going to go to a new scene, and I'm going to bring my cube so that visually it matches this scene. So look at this. So this is approximately a bit wider than the default camera. It's up here. So I'm going to go here, default camera. There you go. Let's say this is this scene. So approximately, and the best way to do this is you put this cube at, let's say, 600, and you put this cube at 6. That's the analogy. And I'm going to go here, and I'm going to do this, all right? Now, there are not many visual differences between this and this, okay? So because 3D is not the real world, the big thing is going to fall for a longer time because we're viewing this from a larger distance. Look how fast this is going to fall. Do you see that? It's how fast this is going to fall. And the reason for that is because it's much, much smaller. Now, because of this, it traverses longer, let's say, relative distances in shorter amounts of time, which means it requires more accuracy. And what you're seeing here, the difference between how many steps it takes to go from up here, down here in this, and how many it takes to go here, is what makes things harder to calculate, because smaller errors create larger deviations. So what can we do about this? Well, there is in the scene a scene scale, and both the scene scale and the time scale allow you to play around with this to make things look smaller or larger. My personal advice is make things in scales that don't create issues, and then accelerate this either by rendering fewer frames. So if I wanted this to appear to be 100 times faster, so there's a ratio. I'm not sure what the ratio would be, because this doesn't look correct. Already, this doesn't look correct because of the very small scale. But I would say that by making this many times faster, rendering every 10 frames, every 20 frames, and then going into compositing and speeding it up, you will get the sense of scale without sacrificing the detail. Now, of course, you can also go to the scene scale and all that, and do play around with these numbers. But we're faking things. These are not real world simulation tools. They just try to imitate things, and there is a range of sizes that work better. And that also applies to Pyro or anything else that has to do with these things. So again, my suggestion is work at larger scales and then accelerate things visually. It's going to make your life so much easier. Okay, I'm sorry that it may not have been the best reply, but you know, this is what I would suggest you doing. Okay. Yeah, this applies to this question, like a tabletop product scale and so forth. Yeah, again, work at bigger scales, but you think about the particles now. Let me think if there's something else you could do. I mean, the substeps is one thing, because the smaller distances, the simulation substeps and all that will also make a difference. But the particles themselves, substeps, not much else you can do. Work at the scale where everything behaves the way you want it, and just scale everything else to that scale. That again, that is my advice. Okay. What is this? Let's see, Andrew Harvey. Hello, Andrew. Is there a way I can have a null follow an object that is connected to a spline wrap? I want the null to follow the object when I keyframe the offset of the spline wrap. The offset of the spline wrap. Maybe. Let's try this. Let's see if. So let's see if this is going to work. Let's get a helix. And let's see, null to follow the object when I keyframe the offset. And let's get an object to wrap around here. Okay, so let's get a capsule. Put it on the Z, because we're going to make the Z follow the spline wrap. And let's make it a bit thinner and add bunch of these, right? Now let's go and add a spline wrap. So, oops, it's not here, it's here, spline wrap. Do this. The arrow needs to point plus Z, and drop the helix in here, and we should get this. Let's keep the length. And now we want to offset this and make the null follow, right? That is the proposition. Now, there are a couple of things. There's one thing you can do and fudge it. Let's start with the total. We're gonna fake this. Right, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna fake it to begin with. So let's see what happens from offset 0 to 100%. What you see is that the part of the spline that's aligned, the part of the object that's aligned to the spline is the butt, this one here. So this will go all the way from here all the way to here. Okay. Now what I can do, and this is a very easy solution, you get your null. Let's make the null a sphere so we can see it. Instead of trying to tie it to the object, we're going to tie it to the parameter. So I'm going to go to the null and add a line to spline. I'm going to use the same helix, and I'm going to align the values. So all I have to do is go whichever one I want to use to control. Go here, go to offset, right-click, expressions, set driver, because it's going to be driving. Go to this, right-click here, and set expressions, set driven absolute. From this point onwards, this is going to control both. So while we're not following the object literally, we are following the object visually, right? So that will be solution number one. And basically, it's created an espresso which connects the output of the spline wrap offset, and as an input here, the range mapper is linear, so we don't even need it. It's always there for convenience, because maybe you want to change the mapping. You want that thing to not move exactly with the other thing. But there you go. So that will be one way. Okay. Let's try something else. So I'm going to get rid of this and rid of this. The next thing we can do is, let's see if it's going to work. because, hey, I'm going to, bada bim, bada boom. Okay, I have another idea which involves MoGraph because I love MoGraph. I'm going to make a clone, and I'm going to clone on the object, and the object's going to be the capsule. And I want, so this goes to points, distribution, vertex, no. What do I want? Axes, no, that's the axis of the object. What do I want to do here? I want to see if I want to do that. So it's not going to work because it's going to go to all vertices and do that. So I'm not going to do that. Nope. That's not how I'm going to do that. I am going to do it using a constraint tag, hopefully. And I think the constraint I want is the clamp constraint. And I'm going to add this object here. Let's see if that's going to work. A distance. I want to, oh, it's not taking the, okay. So let's see if the connect is going to work. I don't know. Just trying stuff here. So let's see. I don't even know if that's going to work. It's not seeing the changing object. So let me try this one more time because you have to try at least twice. Rigging, let's go. Rigging. There we go. Constraint, clamp. And I'm going to clamp the connect object. And let's see if this is going to work. I'm actually going to set a keyframe here so we have it 100% keyframe. Nope, it don't work. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. Maybe another constraint could work. What else? There are different ways of doing this, and for some reason, I'm drawing a blank. We could use some sort of nodes, but we can't use it with a null. Yeah, interesting. If you, oh, and I've got that thing up. Oh my Lord, sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah, it's just that thing. All right. So the constraint didn't work. What does seem to work is that connecting the two parameters. Again, sorry for the overlay. Let's go back to where it said espresso. And they're both connected. There we go. So now it should be aligned. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there are other ways to do it, but for some reason I'm drawing a blank. Of course, you can go and connect. Maybe not the null. Yeah, I've seen this happening with deformed objects. I've seen this happening. Anyway, what am I missing here? What am I missing? Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, my brain has fried. Yeah. So, and again, sorry for that lower third thing. Let's see what else do we have here. What am I doing? That's with the particles. I was doing particle stuff. Well, you could do some stuff, but you could abuse the system to do some of this. You don't even need the liquids, but let's stick to more viscous fluids for the time being and see what kind of development we get for the system. Okay. We don't have buoyancy yet, Ulysses. Not buoyancy yet, as far as I know. Okay, so let me see. I don't think so. See, I'm forgetting now, and I'm going to apply to something about this. So here is a little sim. I was just playing around with certain things. Let's get a little sphere. Let's get a 30 centimeter sphere or a 15 centimeter sphere. Let's put it in here. Let's let's go and simulate the rigid body. And what else do I need to make sure? I need to make sure that my liquefy collisions, that I have quite a bit of interaction mass, which allows it to interact with the rigid bodies and the cloth and all that. So let's pour some liquid in here and see what happens. Oh, let me turn off the mesher. Let's see. It's moving around. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. And I think it has to do with the mass. So, yeah, my response is it does work with buoyancy. Let me stop the emission. I just want to make sure that it's not because of the emission force, the actual force of the particles that are pushing it upwards. Make sure that it is buoyant. So it's going to stop any minute now, and we're going to see if the sphere is going to sink. Is it going to sink, or is it going to float? Yeah, it's floating. Okay. So it appears that we do have some sort of buoyancy. To what extent, how well it works and all that, I do not know. I haven't done any tests with this. I was focusing more on settings and viscous fluids and all that kind of stuff. Okay. It happens. Okay. Let's see. 1 second. Okay. Thompson X, how are you doing? One sip of water here. The question is, cheers to everyone. I need to crank the speed to 8,000 when using the new liquefy. Can you quickly tell us about how to adjust the liquid mass to help the help file? Okay, so let's talk about the mass. We have two masses essentially with our liquid emitters. So let me just create a sphere, and let's go to my particles and create a liquid fill emitter. There you go. So whether you're going to use a liquefy or you're going to create your liquid fill emitter, the properties are the same, right? Because we're talking about these properties over here. The target density is actually mass per particle. So the heavier each particle is, the more dense your liquid is. But this mass, so to speak, is for interacting between different interactions between particles. That's what it is. It's a part. Anything that's under the constraints is a parameter that will affect other particles, nothing else. If you want your particles to be heavier when they hit cloth or stuff like that, then the interaction mass, that's why it's called interaction mass, because it's interacting with the other simulation objects. So this is depending on what you're trying to do. If it's to displace other particles, if you want to make various liquids repel each other, the denser materials are going to repel, sort of push away the less dense materials. But when it comes to other simulation objects, it's the interaction mass that does that for you. Okay. If there's a follow-up to that question, let me know. Let's see. Yeah. There's a buoy floating. So there you go. I didn't see a buoyancy parameter, but then I thought, wait a minute, buoyancy has to do with water pressure. You know, that's the geeky thing, water pressure and density and weight and so forth. Read up on Archimedes, how he figured out how you can calculate buoyancy. If you take the volume of every, I'm going to show my face because it's uber geeky. So if you want to find out if something is going to sink or float, find out how heavy is water of the same volume. And the best way to do that is you get a bucket that is filled to the brim. You put it over another container, a bigger bucket. You put whatever you want to put you submerge it totally in the water, and the water that spills over, you weigh it. If that water weighs more than your object will float. If the water weighs less than your object, the object will not float. Having said that, if you have a bucket and you have your object, you can just drop it in and see if it floats. But it's not as geeky and it doesn't sound as interesting. So there we go. So let's see, where are we? Let's see. Sorab, can we use another emitter particle attributes instead of distribution node, assuming there are different particle groups? Yes, you could do that. The problem with that is that you need to create. So what Sorab is saying, which ties into the. Oh, yeah, it went. So I'm just going to very quickly set up. Let's assume we want to morph. I'm not going to make it. I'm just going to show so people are reminded. So we have these two things, and we want to morph from one to the other. And instead of using the distribution I did earlier to create the morphing, oh, here, I've got it here. Yeah. So this was the setup. And the way I used to create the final position was using this. Instead of using this, can't we, instead of using the volume voxel fill, can't we use another particle emitter? The answer is yes. But then you will need to read the particles, the starting particles, and read the destination particles. And one by one, you have to feed that data. And it's not as simple as it sounds. That is an interesting tutorial, though. So, Saurabh, if you may remind me about that, if you can kindly remind me, I think I'm going to put it in my list of tutorials to do, because I'm in the process. I'm going to make a few more to show you various setups. Again, we're focusing on, in terms of the liquids, in more viscous stuff. In terms of the particle, the general particle stuff you can do, for example, morphing one object to another, although it's not a liquid property, it's not a liquid thing, by adding the liquids, you're just going to make it look fancier, which is pretty much what we're trying to do in this version. Just make your particles look a bit more interesting. So if you could remind me, that would be fantastic, because that's actually an excellent idea for a tutorial. And thank you again for all your questions. Let's see. And you're very welcome, Igor. Okay. Oh, it's an interesting one. Evgeny, I want to create a scene where the objects from the cloner are only placed on the polygons visible from the camera. That's an interesting one. I know how to do it with nodes. How would we do that? How would we do that? That's an interesting one. We do have a camera shader, but I'm absolutely sure what I could do using that. I do not know. I do not know. With nodes, it can be done with a bit of raycasting, but directly with MoGraph, I need to think about that. Again, a good reminder would be. And Sharon, how are you? So let's see. There you go. This came, I think, through the. It came through the forum. So first of all, through the forum. If you go to Cineversity, copy, I'm going to paste it here. Go to Cineversity, and I've made a series on the various considerations about, yeah, it's premium because I haven't logged in. Yeah, I'm not logged in. So it's showing this. That's funny. So do this, go check it out. And I'm actually showing a lot of principles on how you can do that. Now, these are the images I think you sent. So this and this here, which is some sort of bubbly thing and so forth. Now, let's start with this, because liquids and rendering go together. There's a fundamental, I would say, difficulty, especially with thin surfaces. When you have thin surfaces here, the nested dielectrics method requires overlapping meshes. You need to create a little teeny weeny little overlap in order to make it work properly. So if I were to create some sort of mug here, I'm going to make this editable. I'm going to go to my points, go to my startup, and I'm going to do control click and control click, and I'm going to select this. I'm going to go here. So this is my glass. Right? It's a profile of the glass, obviously. And let's go and get another one. And if this is my water, this is what I need to do in order to get the correct transition. Now, when you're doing fluids, you can always make your mesh of your liquid a bit bigger. But what if you have a very thin glass? Then you're going to have a hard time. Imagine if you have a thin glass, a nice little fancy, whiskey glass, something like that. It's very difficult to make sure that the liquid mesh is going to fall, the borders of the liquid is going to fall within that little thing. So there's stuff you would need to do, and it's not that straightforward, and this has nothing to do with the shader itself. So you need to be prepared for these thin glasses. And again, I'm referencing the images. Something like this will be very hard to create that transition, and the glass as well. And that's on a geometry level. As far as the materials themselves, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to imitate this. You don't need fluids to do something like this. It may appear that you do need fluids, but you can get away most of this by just moving spheres inside a little cylinder. It's not going to be absolutely perfect, but even fluids are not going to give you the result you expect. These are very, very, very hard edge cases for that. So you would get a helix, and let's select this and this and press Control to do this, and maybe increase the number of spirals and change it. So here's my little spiral here. That's nice. Then I can get one circle and a second circle and make the second circle smaller. Remember what we did earlier? Connect object. And let's now do a sweep. I can scale this and sweepity this over this. And there you go. Here's my little thing ready to go. And then you can use the original helix to move some splines around. So let's right click here, go to render display and show lines and isopalms, so we can see that. I don't think that's very helpful, but hey, maybe. So let me create a little sphere here, a very little sphere, and you can now move this. I'm going to make a copy of the helix. Why not? I can. Put the cloner in object mode and put the sphere underneath, and tell the cloner to do this, and then add some rate, and these are going to start moving around. So this is one of the ways you would go about doing this. Just make sure that you put a glass material. Let's see how this looks. I don't know. Maybe it looks good. Maybe it looks... Oh, again, I forgot that thing. I hate this. I hate this. All right, let's go again. I hate this. Yeah. Dr. Sassy, when you look into the video and do your magic and make all the stuff work, please put a capitalized thing that I forgot to take down the lower thirds, but I will do in the next few minutes. I apologize so much. So when you get a cloner and you set it to object and you drag a spline here, it activates a set of data. One of them is the rate, and that allows you to have some animation, and you can even have a rate variation to make some things look move a bit faster. In any case, let's see very quickly if I go auto and type HDR, and let's get something. I've got my favorites. like this. I don't know why. I'm going to go here, go to details and reduce the camera contribution. And let's go to the materials. Let's click on this and type glass or water. So water, just going to get water. Liquid water. There you go. Double click. And let's put it on the cloners and on the sweep. I don't know what's going to happen, but what's the worst that can happen? So yeah, this will be sort of the kind of thing you will. Oops, I got the. Yeah, that's actually. I'm looking at the other image, and let's make the sphere smaller. Yeah, and this is sort of the way you're going to go and do something like that. Don't forget to go to Redshift Advanced and make sure you have enough transparency, depth, and refraction depth and all that. Just make sure, because you can see that the fewer transparencies, the more the exit color is black, but you add a few more just to make sure you capture quite a few of the internal reflections and all that. But in any case, this is, I would say, the way you would go about doing something like that. Maybe some tracers to create those little streaks of simulation. Oh, sorry, of liquid. But I don't think this is a good candidate for using liquid simulations. Sohrab, a question: how do you have Twitter or something like that? Because, as I said earlier, I am available as Noseman GR over there on Twitter. Okay, let's go back to the comments. And what time is it? Ooh, 17 minutes past. Okay. Let's go for a couple more. All right, a couple more. All right. What I'm going to do now is there was one question which I promised I was going to answer, but there is no definite solution yet. The question was, how can we make a perpetual... Oh, Zarab doesn't have X. We need to think about that. We need to think about that. You can... Oh, let me think. What's the best way to do that? Go to the form. Go to the form and post it now, and I'll get that and record it in my personal records, which consist of pencil and paper. So the question was, how do we create a perpetual motion of particles? And this is to show that this is not a trivial matter. And the reason is the following. So what I'm going to do here, because I've made a visualization, and we can forget about everything else and just focus on what we're trying to do here. Now, this is generating some particles, and what you will see is at frame 50, I'm colorizing some particles around here, because in order to do a successful loop, you need to find a way, when you're approaching the end of your loop, for the elements that make up the loop to move into their original positions. And you need to do that because when you do loops with, let's say, walk cycles, so something, let's assume you have something that walks. Is this the best one? Or is this... Yeah. So imagine something is walking and you do this and this. If you're off by a bit, it will morph from the, let's say 1, 2. If you're off by a bit, it's just going to morph, or you can interpolate from one to the other, and you have your next step. With particles, because each particle may be anywhere, you don't know where it's going to be. It's very difficult to guarantee that it's going to end in the final position. The other way you can do this would be using the mesh. So interpolate the mesh and use some sort of PLA at a certain point to morph. The problem with meshing particles is that you don't have static, you don't have constant topology, that the topology changes. So I've been thinking about various solutions that will allow things to work a bit, but first I need to identify what the problem is. And what you see here is that at frame 50, and the reason I started at 50 is that because I'm using a follow spline and a flock just to push them away from each other, I could use fluids as well. I want to see how long it takes for the particles to do a full travel around this and stop. So it takes around, for this particular speed, 350 frames. But you can see that from this state over here, which are sort of compact in some sort of order, by the time they reach that final state, they're not exactly in the same ratios. The outer ones seem to be moving a bit faster, I don't know, and stop. So they are close, but not that close. The other problem is that if you want to interpolate to the final positions, it's going to happen linearly. And if you had particles that didn't follow at the same speed, there would be cutting corners. Now, let me show you what this looks like. I've got a secondary condition where from frame 50, in frame 55, I'm recording those positions. So a few frames after they become red, their position is going to be recorded, because that's going to be the position I'm going to try to send the particles after a certain amount of time. Then I have a secondary condition from 330 to 350, where it's actually interpolating, mixing. I've got some keyframes here. I was lazy, and it should mix the current position and the original position and make them go there. And I'd like you to pay attention to see what happens between 340 and 350 when we get somewhere around here. So we are halfway around, and I'm going to stop it. There you go. So now let's go slowly. And now it's going to start the interpolation. 45. There you go. So providing this, you can nail exactly the start and the end. I assume now that this is a cycle that looks very much like the original frames. Testing it is a bit harder. I'm going to right-click and say current state to object. So I can make a point object where the points are actually where the particles are. I'm going to rewind, press play, and find out approximately when these are going to be close to my other points. There you go. So it's frame 57. So what we have here is frame 57 to frame whatever that was, 350 something. I've got something that looks like a complete loop where the start and the end are identical. What I need to do now is cache this as an alembic, then trim it, because unfortunately it's not that easy. Then I need to put it in a timeline and trim it and use that. Now, for straight forwards moving particles, that's not a big problem. The problem starts becoming kind of harder when you add other kinds of forces. And let me show you why, to curb your expectation. Watch those red particles now and see how much more deviation we are getting from the particles over a full cycle. Now that I've added my nice little effects and all that nice stuff. You can see we have some particles flying, but in any case, let's let this roll. The speeds are going to be ever so slightly different. And now 24, oops. So what you're seeing is the problem that because the particles are fluids and they are interacting with the other particles, they're all trying to go in various directions to find that position, and they're messing up the whole simulation. So now we have a minor issue, that's an underestimation of the year, that something that seemed to work earlier now doesn't work in the same way. So this warrants quite a bit of research. You can see that thing happening again. This warrants a bit more research. It's a very interesting problem, and maybe there is a way that this can be, I would say, solved or quasi-solved, at least to give someone the visual that they require with liquids and so forth. Anyhow, so let's see. I'm gonna, it's 26 minutes after midday, and my brain is going a bit wibbly wobbly. So let me bring up my housekeeping. I'm going to do the very quick housekeeping. I don't want to waste anyone's time. I did post a link earlier, so I'm going to post it one more time for everyone. That's the wrong button. Control C for copy, and I'm going to paste it in the comments. Excellent. This will bring you to this page, which will take you to the Max on events as well as the Max on Training Team YouTube channel. All these videos are hosted on the Max on Training Team YouTube channel, even though live you can watch them on Max on Training Team channel and so forth. Don't forget, go learn ZBrush. Do yourself a favor and go watch the ZBrush streams that you can see these amazing artists making fantastic stuff. And of course, go to Cineversity and check out, there you go, viscous fluid and liquid particles along a spline and some stuff that I did for release. And let me bring up my face. And yes, I want to thank everyone for your participation. Excellent questions as usual. Keep them coming. And I guess I'll see you in a couple of weeks or something like that. Go check the events page and take care, everyone. Have a nice weekend for the upcoming one, and I'll see you around. Bye-bye.